in the end of the 90s, I was becoming more and more interested in the meaning of outsider art. So I wanted to do something that would get the students out of the classroom and would give them a hands-on, real-life experience with an artist. A friend of mine said, you know, you should really go by the House of Blues in Orlando because I hear there is this incredible sculpture by Mr. Imagination. And anyway, I did. And I said, I wonder if Mr. I will come to Lehigh and work with these students and that we will make something along the lines of the concrete arch that he made down in Orlando. And since it was very close to the turn of the millennium, we thought we would make some kind of millennial arch. And so anyway, I called up Mr. Imagination, and I knew him well enough at this point. I had met him, I don't know, 5 or 6 times, and we'd always hit it off. I think he liked the idea that I was this wacky religion professor, and that we could talk about things ordinarily he wouldn't be able to talk about. And so he agreed to come.
The initial impression that people had of Mr. Imagination when he first moved to Bethlehem is that he was kind of odd, kind of strange. He walked around with a bottle cap cowboy hat that probably weighed about 20 pounds, no joke, and a staff, you know, just down 4th Street. He felt that we were all kings and queens and that we should live to that status. And so his house and then became a temple of lands from far away. When he would invite somebody over, he would say, you know, it's gonna be like stepping into another world, and he would say it just like that. And it absolutely was just that, stepping into another world. You could almost see Pharaoh or Egyptian type, you know, just lands from another time.
His art always had meaning. And it didn't have a single meaning. It had a lot of different kinds of meanings, but there were certain themes that you can pick up. The imagery that intrigued him was a kind of dream imagery of his earlier lives in Africa and associations he had of African kings and princesses. And he'll use just about anything that he happens to find. He's one of the world's great scavengers. He goes around and things that people have thrown away, he takes and transforms them magically into art.
His discipline for his artwork was unsurpassed by none. Just incredible. Every time you'd come to his house, he'd be either banging away at bottle caps, prepping them for a future project, or working on something for a show. March, and the throne I'm sitting on, I'm sure at one point will be yet another project where we add on to, and he always saw that that was part of the function of the art to, you know, the process, and that it should never be complete.
He used to sell his work in the store going back to about 2000. Well, we commissioned him to do the bathroom when we moved over to this building. So it was really interesting because before the finished product was there, he would just be coming in with these bags of cement and, you know, dust and bottle caps, and we're like, what's he doing back there? You know, what's going on back there? We didn't know what the final product was going to be. And, you know, it was really fun, but we're like, what's going on? And then out of, you know, typical mess, Mr. I just creates this amazing work.
It was important to him to have the experience of college students. You know, he had worked with little kids and he loved little kids and so forth.
Mr. Imagination lived very closely to the Boys and Girls Club. It's pretty much across the street, so he was over there all the time as well. He did get involved with Southside elementary school programs.
Touched people and he touched communities. I mean, he was very much a social person. And he was never a loner. You know, there are a lot of artists that often are somewhat reclusive, and he was certainly not someone like that.
So you'd always see him out and about in Bethlehem. He was always in a lot of the fun house. Tally-ho, they saved all their bottle caps for him so that he could do his work.
What I call the agony and the ecstasy of Mr. Imagination, because it really was a kind of joy that he communicated. He communicated to people that you too are an artist, that you can do something creative. The agony side of it, it seemed in a way that he was stalked by fire, because he had had a fire when he was in Chicago that was very devastating, and he had this horrible fire here in Bethlehem.
I want to say January '06 is when the fire was. He was out of town doing a show in Las Vegas, and it happened in the middle of the night, and by the time, you know, fire trucks were there, the house was essentially engulfed. He lost a tremendous amount of his collection. Most importantly and emotionally, he lost his beloved dog Pharaoh, who, you know, they were best friends. So it took a lot for him to really bounce back from that fire, though, you know, he definitely gave it his all, and there was a tremendous amount of community support reaching out to him, and everything from his household needs to meals, or, you know, anything we could think of to lift his spirits. And he did quite well, but I think he found that to be kind of a sign from God that it's time for a new chapter in his life. He's a very religious soul, and he had connections in Georgia, so he followed that next leg. He always was looking ahead down the road and what the path was going to lead, and he wasn't afraid to follow those signs.
Bringing Mr. Imagination here was a really significant development. In many ways, it literally changed lives. Clearly, not everybody gets this stuff, and not everybody gets Mr. Imagination. The ones that do, however, they're really moved by it, you know, that there is something extraordinary going on here.